all week. You just maybe didn't notice.
I did notice.
Oh.
I just didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's all we got, so.
You can always do it on the whiteboard.
No, then I'd have to rewrite all the graphs and stuff. Too much work. All right, so at the top, okay, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to isolate the radical. That means to get it alone. Okay, now, a radical is the same as a square root. Okay, but a radical includes other kind of roots which you don't have to worry about for today or next week. Okay, then how do you get rid of a square root? Okay, you're going to raise both sides to the power of 2, which just basically means to square them. Okay, so you're going to raise both sides to the power of 2 or square both sides. And then remember, squared and square root cancel out with each other. Yeah, we already know that? Okay, then you're going to solve, and then you're going to check for what's called an extraneous solution. Have you guys heard that word before? Okay, so new vocabulary. An extraneous solution is going to be an answer, a number that you find while you're solving, but that's not really a solution. When you plug it back in, it does not actually make the equation true. Now, this does not happen for most kinds of functions. That's probably why you haven't heard of it so far. But especially for square roots, when you're solving, every now and then you'll get an answer that's not even really an answer. We'll look at some examples of those in a second. Okay, but we're going to jump around. So are you ready? Okay, on your homework, I want you to do number 3. So take a look at it, number 3. We're going to go back and forth, so I'll have both of them out.
So we should grab this one off the line.
Well, no, we're jumping to this one here. Right here. We're on your homework, guys. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do to get rid of the square root is square both sides. And when I square, remember that the squared and the square root cross out. What's left over? 2x minus 1 equals. Now, 5 squared is what? Okay, and remember that the way you get a squared is you times it by itself. So 5 times 5 is 25. That's where that comes from. Okay, from here, how do I get rid of minus 1? Okay, plus 1, 25 plus 1 is 26. Divide by 2, good. Okay, and you get x equals 13. Very good. Now, we're going to check it algebraically. What that means is that you're going to go back and you're going to plug that number in to see if it makes the equation true. So, I'm going to come back to my original, and then where the x was, I'm going to put in a 13 instead. And then I'm going to put a question mark at the end because I'm trying to determine if that's really going to be the answer or not. Now, if you don't want to do it on your own, you can just type this side into the calculator and see if it gives you 5. Now, you should be able to do it without, okay, but since there's several of them, if you just type it in, that's fine. Okay, what's 2 times 13, though?
26.
What's 26 minus 1? 25. Is the square root of 25 really 5? Yes, then this one is not extraneous. Because when I work it out, the answer comes out to be true. Okay? Now, let's take a look, please, at number 3 on your notes. Okay, go back to your notes. Okay, what would I do first on number 3? Okay, square and square. Now, I want to remind you, we talked about this the other day. When you square a negative, what does that make it? A positive. Okay, so if there's a negative on the negative 4, that's fine. When you square it, it's going to turn positive. So these guys still cross out. I get x minus 3 from the middle left over. And then what is negative 4 times negative 4 again? Positive. Positive 16. Okay. Then from there, what do I do? Plus 3 plus 3. X equals what? 19. Okay, then I want to check it algebraically, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to plug 19 back into my answer. So plug in 19 for x. Okay, so here we go. I'm coming back to right here. So it's square root 19 minus 3, negative 4. What's 19 minus 3? Square root of 16 equals negative 4. Now, what's the square root of 16? 4. Does 4 equal negative 4?
No.
Okay, the answer is no. That is an extraneous solution. Because when I go back and I plug that number in, I get positive 4, but the equation says it's supposed to equal negative 4. So you would cross it out, write extraneous. So an extraneous solution is a number that when you go through the solving process, it comes up like it's an answer, but then when you solve it, it's like, what the heck, it didn't actually really work. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to confirm it graphically that it's extraneous. So right over here, we're going to graph both sides of the equation separately.
Positive 3, negative 4.
Okay, so first, I'm going to graph y equals square root x minus 3. And then second, I'm going to graph y equals negative 4. So do you see that the top equation is just this side, and the other equation is just this side? Okay, now we practiced graphing these. If it's a minus 3 in the square root, which way does that shift us? To the right. So go in your graph to the right 3, and then draw your square root. Now, where would y equals negative 4 go? Okay, I'd go down to negative 4, and then it's going to be flat across because there's not an x in it. So this is going to be a flat line in your graph across negative 4. Are those ever going to cross each other? No. That's why it's no solution. That's why your answer came out to be that they don't actually really cross. Yes? Afternoons, unless it's an emergency. Okay, now, the reason extraneous solutions happen, this is why, is that remember how normally when you square root stuff, it's a plus or a minus? Do you remember that? Okay, if I drew the minus half of this, remember this is the positive square root, but if I did a minus square root, would the other side have crossed the line? Yes. But remember, since I'm only looking at half of the square root at a time, that's why it comes out to be a fake answer. Because the other side would have crossed, but my side doesn't cross. Does that make sense? Okay, now, I don't need you to constantly redraw the other side, but just know that's why it happens. Is that really you have a u, but a square root's only half of it. So if the other half crosses, but your half doesn't, that's when you'll see those extraneous solutions. Okay? Turn over to the back of your notes, please. Okay, we're going to do the next one. Okay, I'm going to square both sides on number 4. Okay, now, good question. The question was, do I need to get rid of the negatives? This is why you don't. When you square, what's going to happen to the negative? It's going to cancel out anyway. So you can get rid of it, but it's kind of a waste of time because it's going to go away anyway. So when I square, my negative and my square root both cross out. What's the only thing that's left from the middle? X minus 2. Now, negative 6, watch me type this into my calculator and tell me what I did wrong. If I type in negative 6 squared, oops, that's not even the right button. Negative 6 squared, it comes out to be negative 36. That's wrong, because why? Gotta put parentheses. If you type it in without, it gives you the wrong answer. So it needs to be a positive 36 because you're using parentheses here. Then what's my last step? Okay, x is 38. Okay, now let's check it algebraically. Okay, so I'm going to take my 38, I'm going to go back and plug it in. So it'll be negative square root 38 minus 2, negative 6. And then I'm going to put a question mark at the end because I'm trying to see, is that really equal or is it not equal? Okay, what's 38 minus 2 inside?
36.
Negative square root of 36. What's the square root of 36 in here? 6. And then the negative in the front makes it a negative 6. Are those really equal? Yes. Okay, now let's check it graphically to show that they're really going to cross. Okay, come to your graph. Y equals, I'm going to split my equation up. Negative x minus 2 and negative 6. Oh, oops. Will you just push it back? Okay, so which one is going to be the flat line? I'm going to do that one first. Okay, negative 6. So go into your graph, put your little flat line across at negative 6. And then for my square root, I'm going to follow the rules that we've already been doing. So if that's a minus 2, which way are we shifting? Okay, positive 2. And then normally I would arch it up, except for what? That negative means that it's going to curve down. And eventually, way out here in the graph, are they going to end up crossing? Where will they cross at? 38. Okay, so if you're on the right branch that's going to cross, then it's not going to be extraneous. It's a normal answer. Okay, go down to number 5. What would I do first on 5?
Minus the 1.
I'm going to minus the 1 first. If you try to divide by 4, 9 won't go. And so it's going to end up making it harder if you do it that way. So I'm going to minus the 9. I get this. Okay, good. Then my next step, remember, you don't want to square with that 4 in front, so I'm going to divide by 4 like y'all said. What's 8 divided by 4?
2.
Okay, so x minus 8 equals 2. Now that my 8 is inside, I can't touch it until I square. So I'm going to square, square. Do I have to put parentheses around the 2 if it's positive? No, but if it's negative, you do. Okay, so 2 squared gives me 4. And then how do I get rid of minus 8? Plus 8 and plus 8, which means x equals what? 12. Okay? Then there are 2 ways for you to check. We're going to do both since it's on your notes, but your homework is one or the other. Okay, I'm going to plug in my 12 to the equation. So I get 4 square root 12 minus 8 plus 1 equals 9, question mark. Okay, inside the square root, what is 12 take away 8? 4. And what is the square root of 4 going to be in just a second?
2.
Square root of 4 is 2. What's 2 times 4 here then? 8. And is 8 plus 1 9? Okay, so I'm just going to put a check. Now, if all of the arithmetic and stuff, if you're not good at that, look, you can literally just type it in exactly like you see it. So look, watch. 4 square root 12 minus 8 plus 1. Did it give me 9? Yes, that's good enough. You can just type it in. I don't mind if you do it that way instead. Okay? Now, let's check it by graphing. So, y equals 4 square root x minus 8 plus 1. Y equals 9. And I take each side of the equation separately, and then I'm going to graph them. Which one will be my flat line? Y equals 9. Draw it in. And then my 4x minus 8 my plus 1, which way is that going to be shifted? Okay, so to the right 8, and then up 1. Yeah, you remember that? So 8, 1 is here. And then the 4, remember, that's going to stretch my graph to make it steeper, but is it curving up or down? Up. So eventually, is it going to end up crossing? Yes. Where will it cross at? 12. Good. Okay, let's do one off of your homework. So go back to your homework, please. Okay, we're going to do number 2, and then we're going to do number 5. These are both checking how? Graphically. Okay, so let's do 2 first. What do I do to solve on number 2? Okay, plus 1 on each side. So I have root 3x equals, what is negative 4 plus 1? Negative 3. Because remember, if you're backwards 4, and then you move forward 1. Okay, and then when I square both sides, what do I have to remember to put on the negative side? Well, it is going to turn positive, but I have to put parentheses. And if you use the calculator, you have to type them in. Okay, in the calculator, what is negative 3 if I square it?
9.
Positive 9. Good. Okay, because it's negative 3 times negative 3 again. Okay, then on the other side, my squared and my square root cross out. 3x is left over. What do I do from there?
Divide 3x by 9.
Boom, divide by 3. What's my answer? 3. So when I do my graph, I want to make sure that they're going to cross around 3. Now, your graph's not going to be perfect, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to do y equals. Okay, so you can either go back and plug it in, or you can graph. So this one, since it says to check by graphing, that's why we're doing that instead. Okay, but on a test or something, you could do either one. Okay, so y equals -4. That's my flat line. Draw it in. And then for my root 3x minus 1, the minus 1 is not inside, it's outside. So which way does that shift my graph? Down 1. Very good. So I'm going to go down 1. And then when I draw my square root, my 3 is a positive in the front. So which way does it arch, up or down? It's going to arch up. Is that ever going to cross my pink line? No. So what type of solution was 3? Extraneous. Okay, and remember that if it's extraneous, that's not a real answer. Now, the other branch down here, that one would have crossed, but not the top branch. Okay? All right, let's do number 5. Did we? Yeah, no, I don't think so. Okay, what do I do first? Minus the 7. What is 5 minus 7? -2. Okay, then how do I get rid of the square root? Do what? Square and square. When I square on the right side, I have to use what? Parentheses. Very good. So when you put your squared around that -2, you have to remember the parentheses. That'll change your answer. Okay, these guys cross out. What's left over?
4. And then 2x.
2x equals 4. Good. And then last step? Divide by 2. Then I look to see x equals 2 is my answer. And now I'm going to check by graphing. So I have 2 equations, root 2x plus 7, and then I have y equals 5. Let's do the flat line first. Which one is my flat line? 5. Okay, 5 goes right there. And then for my 2x plus 7, which way does plus 7 shift the graph? Up to 7. Very good. 7's here. And then my 2 in the front is positive. Which way are we arching? Up or down? Up. Am I going to ever cross that orange line? Cross it out. Extraneous. Good. If you want to put, instead of having to write it every time, ES, that's fine. That would stand for extraneous solution. So like you do like this side as one equation, and then this side as the other equation. Okay? All right, go back to your notes for me, please. Okay, and we're going to run through these last couple. So look at number 10. What would I have to do first? Okay, minus the 10. What is 6 minus 10? This is number 6 on the back of your notes. Okay. So I have this, -4. And then normally, I would have to get rid of that negative in the front. But if I'm going to square, it's going to go away on its own. So I don't care that there's a negative there. I'm going to go ahead and square anyway. Because remember that squaring both sides is going to cross out that negative anyway. So I'm going to have 3x minus 2 left over. And then what's -4 times -4 again? Positive 16. What do I do next? Add the 2. What is 16 plus 2? Okay, 3x is 18. Then I divide by 3. And x is how many?
9.
Divide by 3. 6. Okay. This one we're going to check algebraically first. So remember, algebraically just means you plug it in. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write 10 minus square root 3 times 6 minus 2. Oops. Oh wait, no, that's fine. Okay, and then equals 6. Now, on the inside, I don't want to have to figure all that out, so I'm just going to type it in right here. So look, in my calculator, I'm going to type in 10 minus square root 3 times 6, and then minus 2. Does it come out to be 6 as my answer?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so you can use your calculator to check it. Just make sure you write it down on your paper before you do. Okay, we're not going to solve that one by graphing. We did other ones by graphing. Okay, take a look at number 7. Number 7 looks like it's going to be hard because you have a square root on both sides, but actually it doesn't end up being any harder than the other ones. This is why. How do I get rid of a square root? I do a what? But when I square it, I'm going to square on both sides. What's going to happen to both of the square roots? They're going to just both cross out anyway. So it doesn't matter that they're both square roots, because they're both going to cross out to just give you this. Okay, so my 7x gets to come out on the left side. My 2x minus 1 gets to come out on the right side. Okay, I need to get rid of which one, the 7x or the 2x? Okay, usually you'd minus whichever the smaller one is, so I'm going to minus the 2x. 2x minus 2x crosses out. What is 7 take away 2? Okay, 5x left over equals negative 1. Last step. Divide by 5. Okay, negative 1 divided by 5 is going to be a fraction. I'm going to divide it in my calculator here. It's negative 0.2. Now, for one like this, I would not try to solve it by graphing. Okay, just because they're both square roots and you have to make sure they're both going the right way, I just plug it in. So I'm going to plug in square root 7 times negative 0.2 equals square root 2 negative 0.2 minus 1. And then you're going to have to plug in on both sides and see if you get the same number. Okay? Now, when I type this left side into the calculator, okay, if you have a calculator, go ahead and type it in. What is it going to say? Okay, look, watch. I'm going to type it in. If you don't have one, you can look. Okay, 7 times negative 0.2 in a square root is going to say non-real answer. Why is that? What are you not allowed to take square roots of? Negatives. What's the number in the middle? Negative. Now, is there an imaginary solution? Yes, but we're not in that unit, so we're not going to count them. So you would just say, this is extraneous. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little star and say error in calculator. Okay, if it ends up saying error, that's because you have an imaginary solution and we're done with the eyes. I don't think that they're going to come back up the rest of the year. Okay? Alright, so what I'd like for you to do off your homework is number 9. Huh? So we've been going back and forth. So now you're going to try number 9. It's very similar to number 7. Okay? Number 9 off your homework. So your first step, it should be to square both sides, and that crosses out both of the square roots. So all that's left is that 4x plus 2 equals 3x plus 4.
So yeah, I did the positive, where are those first ones? That positive 2 or positive 4?
Uh-huh.
So being that first one.
No, I'm going to do the x's first. So which x am I going to cancel out, the 4 or the 3? Okay, the 3. Now remember, technically it doesn't really matter. You could do either one first. Just usually people do the smaller one. So 4x minus 3x gives me what left over? X plus 2. On the other side, my 3 is crossed out. It's just a 4 left. What's my last step? So x equals 2. Okay, I want you to go back and plug it in. Okay, this one it says you're checking algebraically. So I'd have 4 times 2 plus 2 equals. And then on the other side, it'd be 3 times 2 plus 4. Now, when you type these into your calculator, they're going to come out to be decimals. That doesn't matter as long as they're the same decimal. So, type in this side, type in this side, they should be equal. And if they're not equal to each other, then you know it was extraneous. So square root 4 times 2 plus 2, what does the left side come out to be? Okay, 3.1622, that's this left side here, equals. Then other side, I'm doing square root 3 times 2 plus 4, which comes out to be the same. Check. So we know that that's good. It's not extraneous, it's the real solution. Okay?
Is it the 2 inside? Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it is.
That's what I got.
Okay, I'd like for you to give number 8 a shot next, please. Okay, number 8. Still on your homework. Can I square right away? No, what do you do first? Okay, good. So what is 6 plus 2? 8. So you have this. We're doing number 8, right above the one we just did. Okay, then from there, my negative 2 is gone. Now can I square?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, since 8's already positive, I don't really need the parentheses, but you can put them if you want to.
16. No.
What is 8 squared? 8 times 8? 64. Yeah? And you can just use your calculator as you go through. Then what do I do next?
Add the 4.
Okay, the 4 is negative, so what do I do? Subtract the 4. Okay, good.
Divide the 6.
Uh-huh, you got it. So 64 take away 4 is how many left over?
Negative
6.
6. Nice.
Yeah. And then when I divide, this is important. Okay, make sure you divide not just by 6, but by the negative as well. So if it's a negative 6 in front, I'm going to divide by negative 6.
And it's going to be negative 10.
It'll be negative 10. Good. Now, a lot of the times when we've gotten negatives, our answers come out to be extraneous. Okay, so let's check and see if this one is. Okay, I'm going to take my negative 10. I'm going to plug it back into my problem here. So it'll be square root 4 minus 6, negative 10, minus 2 equals 6. Now, when you're writing these down, you do want to be careful to make sure that your square root only goes over the numbers it's supposed to go over. So, like, see how my minus 2 wasn't inside? When I type it into the calculator, I need to make sure that minus 2 is not inside. It is going to become a positive. That's right. Okay, so because these both are negative, they are going to end up fixing it to where it's not extraneous, which I'll show you now. So it'd be square root 4 minus 6, negative 10 in the parentheses, then go outside minus 2. Okay, and it does give me 6, so I know that was not an extraneous solution. That one is good. Okay, so you do have to be careful about it. It's not like every negative is extraneous. It depends. Okay? All right, last question off your notes that we're going to do is number 8. Very last one off your notes.
You got 16 for that? Negative 16 for that? Or negative 6?
I got negative. Oh, you put a minus instead of a.
Oh, yeah.
You put a negative sign instead of a minus. Okay, take a look at number 8. Now, do you notice you have square roots on both sides? Yes. You cannot square both sides if they're together. So what you're going to have to do is take this side, and we're going to move it across to the other side. You cannot do the square thing if they're both on the same side already. So I'm going to move it over, so now I have this. Now, I do want to point out to you that originally this was a negative square root. When it moves across to the other side, will it stay negative? No, it will switch to be a positive. Okay, then from there, I have to square. Normally, you would try to get rid of this 2, right? You would have to divide by 2. The problem is, can I divide by 2 if these guys are inside the square root? No, so when you square with a number on the outside, you have to square that number as well. So when I square, look, watch. I'm going to square here and here, just like I always do. But then since this 2 got stuck on the outside, I have to square it as well.
Oh, so it'll be a 4.
So it'll turn into a 4. Very good. So my 2 now is squared. Now that's a 4 on the outside. Now, my 2x plus 1 used to be in a square root. The square root goes away, so now it's just a normal 2x plus 1. And I will have to distribute, yep. Then on my other side, I had a square root, but my squared crosses out with it, so now it's just a 10x plus 20. So you get the square roots separated from each other, square both sides. If a number gets stuck outside, you have to square that number too. Then from there, I'm going to distribute and then solve. Okay, so 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 1 is plus 4. And then my other side is just staying at 10x plus 20 because I didn't have to distribute over there. Now, from here, I need to get rid of the smaller number of x's, which would be the 8x. Good. And if I do 10x, take away 8x, 2 x's are going to stay behind. Now, at this point, I have 4 equals 2x plus 20. I know that some of you guys don't care, okay, but a lot of times I'll switch and put the x on the left. So you can leave it if you're fine with it, but I'm going to write this side first and the 4 second. Remember, you can switch sides to put x back on the left. And then how do I get rid of my plus 20 after I switch sides? Okay, 4 minus 20 is negative 16. And then last step, negative 8. Now, you can go back and plug that in, and you're going to find out that it's extraneous. This is why. When I put my negative 8 into this equation, what's 2 times negative 8 in there? Negative 16. And then if I add 1, that's still a negative 15. Can I have a negative in a square root? No. So cross it out. ES, or extraneous solution. Okay?
If it's a negative in the square root.
If it's a negative in the square root and it doesn't cross out with another negative, that's when it cancels out. Okay, so I want you to go now to number 10 on your homework. Number 10 is very similar to the one that we just did. Okay, number 10 is very similar. Now, can you square both sides if they're both together? No, so I'm going to take this one. I'm going to have to bring it across. And when it comes across, it used to be positive. When I move it, now it's going to be a negative on the other side. So it'll be 2x minus 1, negative 2 plus 5x. Now, the negative in the front doesn't matter because when I square, what's going to happen? It's going to cancel out anyway. But can I get rid of this 2? Not if that's a square root. So when I square, I'm going to have to square that 2 as well. Okay? So I'm going to do squared, squared, and then squared. What?
Doesn't the minus
I don't
go?
think, not in this class. Maybe in Algebra 1. But you wouldn't have done extraneous ones.
Would it be 4 parentheses?
Yes? 4 parentheses, x minus 1. Other side?
2 plus 5x.
What about the negative?
Isn't it gone?
Ah, goes away. Good. Good job. When you square, that negative goes away because what's a negative times a negative? Whoosh, gone. Okay, from here, you're going to have 3 steps. Distribute first. Get your x's together. Then finish solving. Okay? Okay, after I distribute and get 4x minus 4, I'm going to move the smaller number of x's, which is which one? The 4x's. Okay, 5x take away 4x is 1x, which is the same as just like a normal x. So that's gone. Negative 4 equals 2 plus... I'm going to write 1x, but if you just want to put x, that's the same. Okay, now from here, you know I like to switch it, so I'm going to bring this to the left. And I'm going to let negative 4 go to the right. Then if it's a 2 plus x, that's the same as x plus 2. So how do I get rid of that 2? Minus 2. Negative 4 minus 2 more is how many? Negative 6. Good. Okay, now go back and plug it in, and then use your calculator to determine whether or not it's going to be extraneous. Don't tell anybody. Do it on your own. So you're going to go back to your equation. You're going to put negative 6 in where the x is and see if it comes out to be 0 on the other side.
So yeah, million.
Okay, when you type it in, is it extraneous or not? It is extraneous. What's negative 6 minus 1 more? Or actually it'd be negative 7, but either way it's negative, right? And can you square root a negative? No. So you would come back, cross it out, put extraneous. Okay? Or if you want to put ES, that's fine. Okay, remember ES stands for extraneous solution. Okay? Alright, let's do one more graphing and then you'll have what, 2 left? Okay, let's do number 1. Okay, go ahead and solve it.
X equals 1.
Okay, good. So I'm going to square.
Yeah, 25.
So you remember when you're graphing it, you're just sketching to see if it's headed the right direction or not. Okay, so I get 5 squared is 25. Then to get rid of the plus 3, I have to minus 3 and x is 22. Good. Now, when you're checking graphically, remember, you're just trying to determine if it's extraneous or not. If it's extraneous, it's going to be headed the wrong way. That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to break up my equation into 2 pieces. X plus 3 is my first one, and y equals 5 is my second one. Remember that the constant side is the flat line. So where's my flat line going to go through?
Can we just like we don't solve it and just do the graphic something like
Well, you can't because we're not going to do a good enough graph to see it cross at 22. Think about how big your graph would have to be.
that?
Yeah? Okay. And then if it's a positive 3, which way are we shifting? So 1, 2, 3. And then eventually way out here, okay, way out there, it's going to cross at 22. So is it extraneous if they're eventually going to cross? No. So that would be check. That's good. Remember, it's only extraneous if that U was headed the wrong way to where it wasn't ever going to get there. Okay? All right, you have 3 left. And when you're ready to check, the answer key is here. But you should really only have to check 4, 6, and 7.